I think there is four important blocks of his speech. First one is about COVID-19 and how China is taking this serious, but it was clear that he was saying that we need international cooperation. China by itself cannot solve all the problems in terms of COVID-19. The second point was about development and multilateral negotiations in terms of how can we recover the economy. In that perspective, he mentioned that there is two sides of the same coin. One is security and another is development. So he calls for a global security initiative together with the global development initiative. The third point is about the Asian economies, and that's exactly what you're talking about here, is the importance of the Asian economies with more than 30% of the GDP, with a lot of more than almost 50% of the world population as a market consumption. So intra-block trading is a very important element. And the fourth point is the resilience of the Chinese economy. As we see in the first quarter, China was 4.8% up. Yep. That's a very important, that's carrying the world economy in the back of the Chinese economy. So those are four important points that President Xi Jinping mentioned this morning.
President Xi made a wonderful speech with all the very good points that are very focused on what we actually need to do now, immediately in the future. And one specific point that President Xi mentioned was that we are all in the same boat. In other words, going together, Asia, Americas, Europe, and many other countries and continents, we literally swim or even sink together. And I like to extend this, if we are all in the same boat, supposing you have a crisis, you cannot say that, that hole is not on my side of the boat, it's on your side of the boat. In other words, if the hole is in the boat, everybody collectively will have to solve the problem together.
Indonesia would get a lot of benefits from RCEP, and the importance of RCEP actually can be seen from at least two perspectives in Indonesia. First, it facilitates trade and investment relations of Indonesia with other countries in the region. That would definitely beneficial to Indonesia's economic development and also Indonesia's participation in the regional and global value chain. Another importance actually streams from the fact that in order to get the optimal benefits from the agreement, Indonesia is required to take a significant economic reforms that currently Indonesia is needed, especially to make the recovery, the economic recovery and the post-pandemic economic developments would be beneficial to the country.
RCEP will definitely be good for all 15 members in perspective, but for Singapore in particular, it's a small country, but it's actually not so much about the size. Singapore is an open economy. I mean, if you look at the trade and the GDP of Singapore, the trade is 3 times the size of GDP. So in other words, RCEP is basically the lifeblood. I would say even the livelihood of many people in Singapore, many industries, many businesses, for individuals, for household. It is something very holistic across the board. So I believe Singapore, it is something that will want to, I would say, not only benefit but contribute to the collective, I would say, advancement of this free trade, because over many years since independence, 1965, Singapore cannot run away with the fact that it has to be inevitably plugged to the rest of the world, and that's how it is. And I think many members of RCEP will be in the same situation as Singapore, that needs that interdependency of the world open economy.
RCEP, I think, is a very welcome development, and it brings together a lot of, we talk about the spaghetti bowl of different agreements in Asia. It brings them together, it simplifies a lot of things. But we should remember it's focused very much on trade in goods, not so much in services, a little bit on services. But if you look at what is really important for Asia are these global value chains, and they have become, the lever for many emerging developing countries around the world to join global production. And unfortunately, RCEP doesn't do too much for that. That's where we need to think about deeper issues around intellectual property, about SOE subsidies and so on, things that are addressed by the CPTPP. And that, I think, is the next jump that we need to make, and try to think about how can we bring together these two very important agreements.
Okay. We talk a lot about free trade.
Yeah.
But logistics is one of the things that cost more and can finish you with the free trade. So you have a lot of elements in the region that can help, okay? Especially small business. Because for small business, as Professor was saying, you need to build capabilities. Export is not an easy task.
Yeah.
You need to adapt your product, you need develop packaging, you need to have someone that takes care of the logistics, you need to see what kind of a market channel you can use. Okay? But when you have a comprehensive agreement like RCEP, you can change institutionally how you do those things. So for example, the export agents of Malaysia, of Indonesia, of Singapore is going to be working hand to hand or shoulder to shoulder with China in terms of market access, origin rules. So this changes, not at the macro, we tend to see the macro level, but there is a micro level that is very important in terms of trade. And I'm sure that this kind of agreement, although it takes a little time to move and to learn, it's going to be very beneficial. And we are not talking about job and employment opportunities, cross investments, strategic alliance. So all this would help small and medium-sized companies to be really globalized in terms of the region.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of cross change in terms of cooperation between companies, but I'm expected to see much more. As you said at the beginning of the program, 30% of the GDP of the world is concentrated in this region. And we see in the next 10 to 20 years, this number is going to jump to 40%. So that's very important. But how is going to jump? Through agreements like that. So it's very, very important.